And action.
Hey guys, welcome to the homebrewchatter.com. We're doing a reiterated mash today. I'm going to skip over a lot of the basic points. We're really going to focus on just the steps of the reiterated mash. If you have any questions about the rest of the brewing processes, look for some of our other videos on the website. Okay, for some of the first steps, this is my mash tun here. Right now I've just got a couple gallons of boiled water in there. What I'm doing is preheating the mash tun. So when we dump in the grains in the water, everything stays pretty much the same temperature. Again, pretty basic step. What I've got here is the main difference on a reiterated mash. Your first mash is going to be your full pre-volume boil amount. So instead of bringing your typical 5 gallons of water up to boil, I'm now bringing about 7.5 gallons of water up to 144 degrees because I'm using 10 pounds of grain, and that's going to get me a mash temperature of 140 degrees. So there's 10 pounds weighed out, and we'll move to the next step here in just a few minutes when the water's at the right temp. Alright, so we now got 10 pounds of grain in, about 7.5 gallons of water here, trying to make up for water absorption from the grains. If you'll notice, this is a really thin mash. That's okay, because what you're wanting to do is let this humongous amount of water soak up more of the sugars and the enzymes, starches, so they can convert in the second step of this mash process. So for right now, all we're doing is just stirring in, double check the temperature, and make sure everything's set. Pretty much business as usual. Now for the first mash, we're not trying to hit full conversion, so only running with about 30 minutes. 20 is what's recommended, but I kind of feel a little bit better about 30. Let's get a little bit more sugar out of there. After the 30, everything's going to go back into the brew pot, and we'll keep filming from there. Okay, so this is where we're changing up the process from the textbook just a little bit. By the BYO magazine article, all they do is just drain off all your wort in your kettle and use that towards your second sparge. Well, I think I can probably squeeze a couple extra efficiency points out if instead what I'm going to do is drain it out into the kettle now, and I'm going to dump this wort back in and treat it just like it was sparge water. So from that point, we're going to keep going. Now, something important to remember is during your 30-minute mash period, you should be stirring this about every 5 minutes or so to make sure all the sugar gets up in solution. So we'll experiment a little bit and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I've done the additional sparge here. Now for this one, you don't have to worry about a Vorlauf because getting grain in really is not going to matter. What we're about to do is I'm going to take all of this liquid out of our first mash. I'm going to dump the additional 10 pounds of grain that we've held back in reserve. This is going to go onto the burner. We're going to try and maintain about 150 degrees, constant stirring, paying a lot of attention to it. So really you're just trying to get as much liquid out as you can, and we'll see where it goes from here. Okay, so as you can see, we've now drained everything off. We've got a little bit of grain in there, but that's fine. Now what I'm going to have to do is top off just a little bit to bring it back up to our pre-boil volume. So I'm about to dump the 10 pounds of grain in here, and what we're going to do is try to maintain 150 degrees over flame for approximately 1 hour or until starch conversion is complete. Okay, so what we're doing here, we're trying to maintain 150 degrees with 10 pounds of our grain in the water that we just sparged off of the mash liquor tun. Now, this is why it didn't matter that you were Vorlaufing. It's because you're adding your grains directly and you're going to do a direct fire heating to keep and maintain your 150 degrees.
Why are you stirring it constantly?
Well, you constantly want to stir so that you don't scorch any of the grain bed down on the bottom of the pot. You want to keep a real even temperature from top to bottom, so your starch conversion happens here. That's why you weren't so concerned with your mash tun. It's because this is where all the enzymes and all the starches from your first mash are going to take place here. It's all going to convert here. This is where you're getting your sugars for the beer. So we're at our target temperature. We're going to maintain this for approximately 1 hour or until a starch conversion test comes up with the correct results. Okay, so now that we've finished up our second mash, which is our direct fire mash, we're going to pour everything that's inside of the kettle. So we're looking at probably 10, I was a little bit sloppy, so probably closer to 11 to 12 pounds worth of grains, plus your 7 gallons worth of water, because we're shooting for about a 7-gallon pre-boil volume. It's all going to get dumped back into the mash liquor tun. From that point, we're going to treat this as if it was a sparge. what's going to happen is we're going to Vorloff it off, and from this point on, we're going to proceed just like this was a normal all-grain brew session. I wish you could smell what we were doing right now.
Delicious.
Okay, so all I'm going to do now is I'm going to wash out my brew pot. So this thing's ready to go. We're going to sparge just as normal. We're going to sparge with a little extra water to make it. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to take this kettle and go clean it out. That way we're ready from this point to go completely as if we were doing a normal all-grain session. Now the benefit here is that we're still working with only your pre-boil volume. You don't have to increase the size of your equipment to do this. Now I am going to have to top this off a little bit. We're going to sparge this out later so that I get a full 7 gallons inside the kettle. That's going to leave us for a perfect brew day.